I think I'm going to use, in art, they use the senses together simultaneously, and I don't have the opportunity in languages, and it works because he affects, what's the word, he
uses different senses.
Different senses, and it's a way to trigger creativity that I don't have the opportunity to do in Spanish, and I want to use some of the strategies you've used in my lesson.
Like what?
For example, she had a song was playing, and the girls had to write down any shapes or colours that came to their mind, and I thought,
words, emotions.
Some words are so simple. In Spanish, they do personality, they do colours, and I could add shapes that could embrace maths as well, so it becomes a bigger, becomes cross-curriculum. And I said, I'm going to use the same activity. I'm just going to keep it simpler, and I could potentially explain Picasso in a Spanish lesson.
When we had our first meeting, because all I wanted to see was Elizabeth to speak Spanish, I always had nothing other that I wanted to take from it. So for my lesson that Elizabeth watched, I took the square, circle, triangle and the difficulties into my art lesson, which I'm going to develop on next as well. So we've already started the first observation. I took something from, then you're going to take something from the next one, and keep going like that. So we're building on each other's techniques.
Yeah, and it was interesting how she did use that, and she herself said, "Oh, I should have done that." And even if I didn't have any subject knowledge in art, I felt I could feed back and say, "You know that triangle, that was fantastic, but what if you," because I think you led that part. I said the point of the activity is that you empower the student to see the differences, and they tell you why one is more difficult than the other. She said, actually, that was right. Yeah. And it felt good to be able to express an opinion on a subject that I have no knowledge. That felt good. And equally, I felt good thinking, that could work in Spanish. Amazing.
And what technique did you say you learnt from the Tina Seelig video?
There was this combine and connect. So it consisted of putting together two elements which have nothing to do together. So I was doing a lesson on the one that you observed on physical appearance, and I decided to talk about Mandela, so that girls had to describe Mandela, and there was a connection with Black History Month, and it was just a good combination. So I put history, language together, and the girls responded well to that.
I think to teach a really different creative lesson, you have to put yourself out of your own comfort box to become
Absolutely.
creative.
I think you want to question teaching style. I think that's the first step.
Question.
If you question teaching style, it leads the way to, because it's a difficult task to make people creative, because every people's creativity is different. So how
I had to make myself more creative, to make my lessons more creative, to make them more creative.
Yeah, and also it's about teaching the students how to think outside the box, how to see things from different angles. And one thing that works in my lesson is I never give them the knowledge. I always take the knowledge out of them, because it empowers them. They give me...
What plus what equals 10?
Oh my God, this is hard. But that's recently I've been doing this a lot. And I just transfer the power onto them, and they tell me what I'm supposed to tell them, and that way I know that they know.
How do you do that?
For example, if there's something that, for example, she saw me teaching a lesson where there were 3 different texts, and it was physical description, and the level of difficulty was in the use of, for example, quantifiers and connectives, words that they are familiar with. So I told them, okay, you've got 3 texts here. Why is one more difficult than the other? And I got them in pairs to discuss. And not only they gave me feedback, so one is longer, but they also started talking with literacy words. They said, oh, there are connectives here, or there are quantifiers, and they knew why one text was more difficult than the other, and what it took to make a text complex. Well, I think, as I said, because this year's point is creativity, I said I need to start off with a creative subject, because I need inspiration from a creative subject, and that's...
do you remember the myths? We said there are no creative subjects.
That's true. That is true.
I just want to see you teaching Spanish.
Yeah, okay, that was the point. So can you ask the question again? Sorry. Because you learn how to see things from a different perspective. You can't do that in your own subject. So you see things happening in another lesson that don't normally happen in your own, because you're used to certain structures, certain pattern, and when you go in music maths, you don't.
Totally different teaching styles.
Teaching styles basically. Yeah, sharing techniques.